Hello, I'm Jacob Chandler, and I'm a Boy Scout. I'll be conducting an interview with Mr. Casey Dotson. Today is October the 25th, 2015. Mr. Dotson is a veteran who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. This interview is part of my Eagle Scout Service Project. The LaSalle Veterans Exhibit and interviews are part of my Eagle Scout Service Project. The LaSalle Cultural Center of Jena, Louisiana will display my LaSalle Veterans Exhibit. Our mission is to preserve our LaSalle Parish heritage. Veterans of LaSalle Parish often have experiences from the time of service that go untold. Sir, what time or eras did you serve in?
I joined the military in March of 1996, and I'm still currently serving as a National Guard.
Yes, sir. So, you said you served in National Guard as your branch?
Yes, sir.
What rank do you have?
I'm currently E5 Sergeant.
Yes, sir. Would you point to the areas on this map where you served at? Or if you'd rather use a close-up map?
I've been to a place, there's a small place here, Iraq and Kuwait. Afghanistan, such a brown country here.
Yes, sir. We also have a closer-up map here at the Middle East.
Okay.
You want to use that?
We've had a couple of stopovers in some smaller places, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan. I did a 4-day vacation in Qatar one time while in the middle of a conflict, I guess.
Yes, sir.
But my 2 combat operations were in Kuwait and Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yes, sir. Let's see. How old were you whenever you started your military training?
Almost 21.
Yes, sir. Why did you pick the National Guard to serve in?
It's kind of always been something I wanted to do. I wanted to serve. My grandfather was a World War II vet, and I looked up to him a lot. Something I wanted to do. So I tried to join right out of high school, but I had medical issues prevented me from joining the Navy. And years later, something came up, and I was able to join the National Guard here in my hometown. I like the National Guard better because it does allow me to go serve when the call is made, and you can go serve. And then when you're not needed, you're here with your family and friends, and people you're on.
So, what all areas did you train at for your service in the United States?
I've been to training with my initial boot camp, basic training, what the Army calls it. It was Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and Lawton, Oklahoma. And then my individual training to learn my skill, I went to Columbia, South Carolina, it's Fort Jackson. And then later, I went to another school, a 2-part school, for 2 weeks in Orlando, Florida, and then another 2 weeks in San Jose, California to learn. I was originally trained as a mechanic, and then I went to another school to be a truck driver.
Yes, sir. Well, did you feel like it adequately prepared you for your service?
Yeah, I believe it did.
Yes, sir. During your service, what all positions or job assignments did you have?
Been everything from KP, what's kitchen patrol, dishwasher, to potato peeler, truck driver. My most recent deployment to Afghanistan, I served as the we called it MC, mission commander. I was our job as a whole was to retrograde the U.S. assets on the ground in Afghanistan, and in order to do that, we had to shut down. The U.S. had to shut down a lot of smaller FOBs, forward operating bases, and get that equipment back to a large base so it could be sorted and determine whether or not it was cost efficient to bring it back to the United States or sell it as scrap metal or cut it up so no one else could use it against us. And we had a convoy commander. His job was to be in charge of all the military assets, and my job as a mission commander was to be in charge of all the civilian local drivers and their trucks and the loads that we carried.
Well, can you describe your training and in preparation for your service?
The training was, it was quite, at the time I was, like I said, I believe by the time I left to go to training I was 21 years old, by a couple of months. And I was one of the older people in the group, and it was still kind of felt like I knew more because I was 3 or 4 years older than a lot of the 17, 18-year-old kids showing up for basic training. And I kind of felt like I had this, you know, I felt like I had more life experiences and I knew what was going on. And I remember they loaded us in the back of a cattle trailer and with all our gear. I had 2 duffel bags and I had one on the front of me and one on the back of me. And we weren't allowed to set our gear down. And we crossed what we called crossing the tracks. We would cross railroad tracks to where we were going to be trained. And as soon as we crossed railroad tracks, the drill sergeants just unloaded on us. It was screaming and hollering, and we got off the cattle car. And I remember reflecting back on it a week or 2 later, thinking that I had probably aged 10 years in about 10 seconds because I didn't know that I had a lot of growing up to do, but I did a lot of growing up in about 10 to 15 seconds. And I think the only way that I got through it, and a lot of people didn't make it through it, was I looked at it like a job. I looked at it like, I'm here to train, but it's their job to make me miserable. And every time that I felt down, I would just stop and kind of shrink back inside myself and tell myself that, well, the drill sergeant's doing a good job today. He's earning his money today because he's making me very miserable and uncomfortable. But the training was long, and I think we did 8 weeks at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And that's a field artillery base, so there's a lot of field artillery there. I think it prepared me for the booming that was going to come years later, because a lot of booms remind me of basic training, you know, because there was always field artillery going off in the background the whole time I was there.
Yes, sir. Well, you said that you had some specialty training as a mechanic.
Right.
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
My individual, the Army calls MOS, military occupational skill, as a mechanic. That's what I do. It's full time for the National Guard. But I did that for 10 years before I became a truck driver on the weekends. But that training was at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And I remember I left Gina in July of '96, I believe it was. Yeah. And it was warm, you know, because it's Louisiana, and I was going to Oklahoma, and I didn't think the temperature would change that much. So I didn't take, and I didn't suppose the Army needed me to have very much civilian clothes, so I didn't take very much. And I did my time up there, and it was October the 4th, I believe, when I arrived at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. It was a little chilly for me dressed in my July Louisiana clothes. And then the further we advanced in that training, the more liberty we got. And we were able to go to town on the weekends. And it got really cold. I didn't come home until December the 4th of that year. And it got really, really cold. But I don't know what this has to do with training, but the environment definitely changed. Went from hot weather and tornadoes probably on a weekly basis in Oklahoma to freezing cold and snow in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yes, sir. What all gear and equipment did you have that was issued to you?
There's been over the years, there's been a lot of gear issued. My wife can tell you that I've always had a corner in my closet that's been dedicated to the Army. 2 or 3 duffel bags full of stuff because you never know what you're going to need and when you're going to need it. This most recent deployment was in 2013 and 14, and this is the uniform they issued, new uniform for the Army. It makes my 5th uniform since I've been in the 4th change, I guess, since I've been enlisted. And everything's getting lighter, more lightweight, and seems to be safer, you know, as far as what they tell us the safety ratings are. And the helmets aren't nearly as heavy. The individual body armor isn't as heavy. It's still bulky to get the job done, but it's not too terribly heavy.
Yes, sir. Well, what all recognitions or decorations you and your unit ever received?
Let's see, think about that. That's a list. Some of the more important ones that stick out to me are Army Achievement Medal, Army Accommodation Medal, Louisiana War Cross, Humanitarian Service Medal, of course the Iraq and Afghanistan campaign medals, and Expeditionary Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal. Those are some of the more important to myself, to my own career.
Yes, sir. Well, how did you earn them?
Some of the Army Achievement and Army Accommodation medals are earned for like an impact, making an impact on the mission. It's an individual award for an individual task. So I think I currently have 7 Army Accommodations and 3 or maybe 4 Army Achievement medals. But Louisiana War Cross, I have 2 of those, one for each deployment in Iraq and Afghanistan. Humanitarian Service Medal, Louisiana National Guard deployed to Honduras and Belize and New Orleans, oddly enough, to help clean up and rebuild after a few hurricanes.
Yes, sir.
Went to Honduras. I think I've been to Honduras 3 times and Belize once. And then, of course, when Katrina hit, we were there from August, 2 days before the hurricane. I think it was August 27th till I believe I came home the day before Christmas. And that's a medal issued by the governor.
Yes, sir.
Or the general of Louisiana National Guard.
Can you describe a typical day in the service?
Typical day for me, you know, being in the National Guard, I guess a typical day would be at drill. And since the Army's there every day and we're only there 2 days a month, the Army has a lot of requirements that we have to meet. So it's a lot more strenuous on us, I believe, because where you would have 4 weeks to get your training done in a month, the National Guard just has 2 days to get that training done. So there's a lot of long hours. There's a lot of I don't want to say stress, but there's a lot of strain on the National Guard soldiers because they have to complete the same task as the regular Army. You just have to compress it and do it all at the same time. There's a lot with the digital age. There's a lot of online training and a lot of class time. You wouldn't think that there would be a lot of administrative tasks, but there's a lot of administrative tasks to be completed, and it's not all just running around in the woods, you know, playing Army. But we do get to do the fun things. You know.
Yes, sir. Well, missions or job assignments that you had that stood out to you in particular?
Let me think on that. There's a mission on this last deployment to Afghanistan that missions to we were there to escort that equipment from one place to the other. Usually we would catch a south mission, escorting something south, and then pick up a north mission, bringing something back on our way home. So this one particular mission, we packed up and got ready to go, and it was supposed to be a 4-day mission, but everyone plans for a couple extra days, so I had packed for a 6-day mission. And in the middle of the mission, some things happened, some things changed, and it ended up being a 28-day mission. And so we were, one of the places we were at was under heavy attack, and they kind of got a lot of the locals that they hired to help, process the water, bring water to our water tanks, and pick up our garbage and stuff like that. A lot of those people got dismissed from the base, so we were kind of stuck there for a while with no water, no food, no showers, no bathrooms, no clean clothes for a very long time. And I remember, as bad as it was, I remember the day that the helicopter came in and dropped, I guess it was a pallet with cargo net around it, but they dropped 2 or 3 pallets of MREs for us at about the 7 or 8 day mark. And we had been we had the food that was on base probably ran out in about 4 days. So we had been rationing food for probably 4 or 5 days. And I'm guessing my timeline will stand up. I don't know. I'm trying to remember from the days, but I remember we had been completely without food for at least a day and a half and 2 days. And MRE is not the most pleasant meal, but it beats not having a meal at all. And then there's probably another 4 or 5 days later before they let the water trucks back on base so we could fill up the water tanks for showers.
Yes, sir. Well, I know certainly during your services and a lot of serious times and a lot of experiences that aren't necessarily humorous or anything like that, but do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual events from your service?
Now, I guess anybody that knows me knows that I'll try to make a joke out of anything, but right now, maybe with the nervousness of the interview, I can't think of any funny stories, but I know there's got to be some out there.
Yes, sir.
I met Santa Claus at Bagram Airfield. It was on our way home, and you forget about those home things, And I guess I was 39 years old, serving, in a foreign land, and big jolly old man comes in the Santa Claus outfit. It just brought tears to my eyes,
Yes, sir. Well, are there any particularly memorable or impactful events you remember from your service?
Memorable or impactful? I'm drawing a blank.
Yes, sir.
Still thinking about Santa Claus. I remember how, well, I'll say I remember, but how things have changed over the years. First deployment, my son Blake was 3 years old when I left, and I remember standing in line for 8 or 10 hours to get on the telephone to have a 3 or 4 minute conversation with him and his mom. And, this last time I was in Afghanistan, I took my iPhone with me and just changed the SIM card out when I got there, and I could almost call home anytime I wanted to. So just over the course of 10 years, how technology has advanced, in a country where a lot of the houses don't have roofs, and they all have, probably a 75 to 100 watt solar panel. It's the only electricity they have in the home at all, but they're cell phone towers,
Yes, sir. After your service, what did you do? Did you go into work?
Yeah, after my training, I came back here, and I believe I worked offshore before I went to basic training. And I came back and went back to work offshore for a couple of years, and then I got a job for Coca-Cola. And being National Guard, you know, you don't have to be there, but just 2 days, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in a year. And then I think after 4 years or a little over 4 years in, I got a full-time job with the National Guard. So full-time, my job is mechanic. So I've been a full-time mechanic for a little over 15 years.
Yes, sir.
With the National Guard.
Well, throughout your service, have you made any close friendships that you still continue?
Definitely. There's you hear about it on TV, you know, but you hear about other people talking about it. But there's definitely a bond with people that you serve with, combat and non-combat. That, you know, you just go through certain things. Some things are real, some things are training. But you just look next to you, and you know that guy that's in your metaphorical foxhole with you is, you know, you can depend on him. So, you know, and I mean, big guy. But this last time I made friends, real good friends with a girl. So it's not always a guy. She was just a young soldier that had lost her father, and I was a great bit older than her, so she kind of looked up to me like a father figure, and I think we'll be friends for the rest of our lives.
Yes, sir.
Just because we had some experiences at the same time.
Well, have you been involved in any veterans organizations?
I'm
I know that you're still actively serving.
member of the VFW, but I don't go to meetings. I don't feel like I don't feel like it's time for that yet.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, sir, for your service and for your time today. And I'd also like to thank Sammy and Blake for coming over today to interview.
Say it now.
Okay. The that's it's subdued. That's a U.S. subdued flag, and it's IR infrared, so that it'll show up under I guess like a night vision scope. It'll show up, but the Union is on the back, on the wrong side of the stripes, because, and the old wives' tale is because it's on that way because we're always advancing, you know, and if you were retreating, then you would see the flag the right way.
Yeah.
But as long as you're always moving forward, the flag's going to be blowing the other direction. Now, what the real reason for that is, that's what I've been told, and that's what I tell everybody. You know.
Yes, sir.
So as you're probably the only two left over there that they're still in, that were in 2003 that went to Iraq. But myself and Jeffrey actually physically, someone else's design, right? But Jeffrey did all the welding, and I did probably 80% of the cutting. Jeffrey did 100% of the welding. And we built these boxes to go in the back of the trucks. And that's what we like to say, that we invented, you know, MRAPs.
Yeah.
It was like the you know, first.
The first model.
Yeah. We took the windows out of the trucks, and Jeffrey made armor plates that would fit down inside the, you know, it's an armor plate that goes down beside the vehicle, the outside of the vehicle, and it fits inside the window frame, and then we bolted it in from the inside, you know, and it wore out the door hinges because
It's genius, though.
it made the doors, you know, go from 30 pounds to 230 pounds, so we replaced hinges left and right on the door hinge. He made the little, we didn't have, what do you call it, bulletproof glass, so Jeffrey made a frame that would fit over the windshield and had expanded metal so you could still see at it, but they couldn't throw rocks at you.
Yeah.
You know, because the kids would like to throw rocks at the soldiers, and that was always a fun game for them. But, you know, now there's, you know, armor-plated glass, you know, in the vehicles. It's probably 4 inches thick. Yeah, of course I don't, I can't read, I think it's in Pashtun, one of Afghanistan's national languages, but ISF's International Security Assistance Force, and that's kind of take the place of NATO. You know, all the coalition forces wore that patch, and it's written in English and in Pashtun, so that the locals can read it. You know, and they know that you're legit, I guess.
Yeah. And then the money?
Oh, this is money from the Bank of Afghanistan, and it's just a trinket that I bought, wanted to bring home for the kids to look at, just to see what different money of the world looks like. I didn't know. It's actually upside down. At the time, I learned to speak a little, but you know, if you don't use it, you lose it. Because my job was to interact with the locals so much, and in our truck, I had a linguist with me everywhere I went because our job was to interact all the time. So I picked up a lot of their language, but I lost a lot of it too. Almost all of it. So they're not on there right now, but I'll get them and put them on there.
Yes, sir.
Because if you go anywhere on post, you know, an Army base, you can buy all the Army medals, but they don't have the state medals.
Right.
So those are issued from the state.